right. Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to another episode of Sculpted Through the Darkness, Resurrected Revelation. I'm your host, Shanice Thomas, of course, and today I am really grateful and honored to have with us Caytlyn. Caytlyn came into my field at, of course, a time when I needed her work the most, and as we go into, you'll see why, but yeah, just to give a quick introduction, I I honestly forget exactly how her Instagram popped up, but she was doing a free journey all about like the fascia and the nervous system and the pelvic, and something about your energy just like called me in. I was in a really restless place in my own journey after years of the inner work and going into all my trauma. And I'm a go-getter. I grew up an athlete, so I'm like I'm digging. And then I come across your class and you're like, yeah, with these simple quick shifts. And I'm like, what is she talking about? And you're all about the multidimensional. So I hopped on one of her classes and I was just like blown away by the simplicity and the profoundness of the body work. All you did was have us like connect to our pelvic floor in a specific way. And I'll never forget, you had us say our names. And I said my name and my whole like energy just like shifted. And I remember after the class, I didn't even want to get up out of bed. Like I just felt so rested. I was like, what the heck just happened? I just went from like restless to completely just in my body in more ways than I could even fathom. And Caytlyn actually opened me up to deepening into my own studies and exploration of body work. So her expertise has guided me. And then, of course, I've kind of just like ventured into my own realms of research. And yeah, it's just been really profound. So I asked her to come onto this podcast and just share her story. Her story is really great and just about the world of bodywork and how needed it is more than ever to be bringing this into the conversation, especially in the realms of like spirituality and inner work and trauma, and how broadly used that word is nowadays. And yeah, I'm really grateful to have you here. So basically, we'll just start this off with, I would love for you to just kind of bring us into your own path of how you opened up to deepening yourself into this world and how this work, you were able to guide a class of women so simply and profoundly. And yeah, I'll just hand the mic over to you.
Thank you so much. I am delighted to be here, and it's such a gift to be invited to a space where you've actually experienced the work. And this is something that is, because that is the work. Like I can talk about it online, I can share about it on Instagram, but it is an experience. It is an experiential journey. And, that is really my gift that has unlocked through my own journey. And then stepping into guiding others is just feeling what comes into my field. I don't pre-plan, I have an outline when I teach something, but I don't pre-plan the journey or the guidance. It's just like what is present and what is ready to come through. So I appreciate you sharing with all of us your experience in that. And yeah, my journey to arrive here was very much sculpted through the darkness. It was not something I ever imagined. I mean, I have spoken the words, I could never touch bodies for a living. And my mom and middle sister are both massage therapists and have been for over a decade, much longer than I have. And then it was when my youngest sister suicided that I really started to go on a deeper healing journey around, starting to just validate the childhood trauma that had occurred in our home and how that could actually impact physiology. And of course, at the time, there was a lot of charge around wanting to find something or someone to blame for her death. And now I understand it in a much more multi-dimensional way. But it was a beautiful, unfortunate, powerful awakening through the medicine of grief that cracked me open enough to really start to look at my own journey. And the first, I had used body work for quite some time at that point. I had suffered from low back pain and sciatica, and doctors wanted to do surgery when I was like 22 years old, and I was like, no, thank you. So I just immersed myself in massage, body work, luckily had hot springs nearby, and that resolved the back pain. And I also dove, and this was before my sister had passed. So then I dove headfirst into cocaine addiction and an abusive relationship because I was addicted to feeling bad. And, not in a place, and this is such an important differentiation, I think, that why this is coming through is because it's one thing to heal a symptom, it's another thing to actually become the most vibrant version of ourselves or be on that path. And that is what my work is about, is not that, okay, we're going to get you to feel better. Yes, that will happen, but it's a result of actually going into where you are unable to receive love and where you are unable to love, from yourself, from another. And through the grief medicine initiation, that was when I really started to look at my life and the world in a different way. And I was very, very angry. And there was a day that somebody yelled at me for having my dog off the leash at the park. And she was driving by in her car. My reaction was I wanted to beat her windshield in. And I was like, ah! And I was like, all right, this is like something to pause with. And it was a very clear moment of, okay, you are going to go down this path of anger and addiction and it will not turn out well, or you are going to figure your shit out, basically. And I chose the path of figuring my shit out. And the first thing that I did from that moment was I signed up for a $30 trial for a yoga studio near my house. It was 30 days for $30. And I was like, all right, I can go and I can do this. And the name of the studio was called Kindness Yoga. So their whole mission was around kindness.
You're like, I need some kindness.
And that was such a important step in my own journey and really allowed me to have the space of looking at myself, being held, being so uncomfortable in these classes, like falling down in a yin class. How that happens, don't ask me to explain, but that's where I was when I started this. And through that came meeting teachers that would later be actually my massage school teachers, meeting more bodywork practitioners, one of whom was the one who said something in passing around intravaginal bodywork. And I was like, what? But I was too shy. Like the words, I was like, nope, not going to say anything. But I went to Google and I started looking into this. That led me into pelvic work. And when I started sorry, my phone just started talking. Like, throw that away.
They have a mind of their own.
That led me to the pelvic work. And when I started receiving that care and learning about my body in that way, and the space in my body that had always been like, it's a mystery. Your painful menstruation is just genetic. Some women don't experience pleasure, like all of these narratives. And I started just learning the science and the anatomy behind it. And I was like, oh, why aren't we learning this? Women need to know this. And that was what really awoke me into my deeper purpose in starting to share with other women. And my goal with that was taking them on the journey that took me from angry and hateful and closed off to love and very, energy doesn't exist, blah, 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 and a lot of pain, a lot of chronic symptoms, to the woman that I was becoming that was like, I'm going to share this with the world. I'm scared of speaking, but it's worth it for me to move through that fear in order to do this. And how do I take someone on that journey? Because that's what healed my symptoms ultimately, was becoming the most vibrant version of myself, which I didn't know that was the goal at the time, but it was just like a clear progressive path. And when it comes to teaching, that has that's where my teaching comes from, is like, I have been in the place of like, I can't imagine touching my own vagina or speaking about that or even saying that word, and being able to guide someone, no matter how advanced they are, into that. The simplicity is the advanced work, right? That is the space that we actually have enough space to experience ourselves on a deeper level.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. And there was something that you said that really, like, I wanted to dive deeper into it, because you said something about like being held. I think that there's a lot to be said about the ways that you guide your spaces. There was something you said on your podcast, which, by the way, guys, we'll talk about her podcast towards the end, but there was something you said that really landed for me, because you were saying you love to help women online because they get to kind of create their own safety within their own space. But there's something about that holding that I feel like a lot of us are really yearning for and don't realize that we're yearning for, is having the space to be held. And even though like you teach, something I really love about your space is like you're very direct, right? But you're also, it's so multidimensional that you feel held in your directness, because you just like bring in that energy. Why do you think that in our society right now, something as simple as touching the body, because like for me, I just started touching my body more in the past like year, and I'm just like blown away by the fact that we don't touch our bodies. And like why do you think that, obviously trauma and all the things, but where do you feel like this work really comes in to kind of bring back that simplicity, and why do you think it's gotten so complicated to just sit and touch the body?
Yeah, the complicated piece is profitable for the medical, industrial systems, big pharma, insurance, surgeries. When women are in chronic pain their entire life or have symptoms, they become, again, very profitable. And, that combined with the ancient attack on the feminine and on the power of the feminine and of the womb. We, of course, have been suppressed and oppressed in so many ways, and that didn't come about for no reason, because we have massive, we exist in the most powerful organism on this planet, is the female body. And if we are wielding that power in a place of fear and abuse and, and that can come from needing to protect ourselves, right? Like this didn't just happen overnight. But as the wise women were burned and we became more and more disconnected from our roots, which, of course happened across cultures. Like my family came from the Celtic Isles and were indigenous to that land, and we became separated from the connection to the earth and to our bodies and to the wisdom that exists in all of that. And as that continued to unfold, we became, the medicine schools were born, right? So that took away the power and the wisdom from wise women, women of color, indigenous women, those who were carriers of this medicine. It was like, now you need a certificate. Now, if you are worthy of holding someone through this process, you need to go to our school, which white men are welcome in and white men can afford, because, you women actually need to be at home having babies and forgetting about the power of your body and doing this on, a to bring pride to your family, right? And that, mixed with negative agendas that do not want humans to awaken, continued to disconnect us from our body. And that shows up as fear, as resistance, as doing years and years and years of healing work, but having never given yourself a belly massage or, this is
That was
not to shame or judge anyone.
I'm like, I'm healing. And I'm like, actually, wait, now I
Yeah, and
am.
it's not to shame or judge anyone. It is the very intentional that we will seek and try and work so hard to find something that already exists within ourselves. And to be able to come into relationship, and this is why, a big reason why I'm so passionate about the self-work, because no one else can have that relationship with your body. No one else can complete the circuitry of your nervous system while touching you. It is your hand on your body is the only thing that can do that. And this is confronting. It is absolutely some of the most challenging work, because it will bring you directly into what you have been avoiding. And with so much love.
And you literally can't run away from
Yeah.
it. Like, literally.
Yeah. And the running away piece, it makes me think of an audio that I left in my membership this week about, if you have anger happening right now, which of course across the collective, that is so valid. I said, go run up a hill. Try it. Go run up a hill. And it's because it activates that fight and that flight. But when we diffuse that, we can actually meet what is underneath it. And sometimes it's not being in our nest space and just dropping into this calm practice. Sometimes it's like, all right, I'm going to go run or speed walk or do something to like burn this off, and then be able to actually meet that freeze and get below the anger and the separation and start to connect into those places that are frozen and, soften a little bit. And for me, who is like, fight, flight is definitely a response in my system. Run away. Being able to get into a place where there is less fight in me. And this has been something that I've really learned through my work with the plants and through plant attunement and dieta, and, not having all of the access to the worldly pleasures in ways that I numb myself. And getting into a place, not out of self. This is very, very different. I want to be clear than like starving ourselves for punishment or to shape our bodies a certain way. It's really being able to tap into what's true and what's real without the ways that we can numb ourselves. And through doing this, I've understood so much more in the ways that I would fight and resist things, and getting to a place where it's like, and you all listening can probably relate to like getting to a point in the day where you're just like tired enough where you're not going to fight things. It's like your kid, your husband says something, and all of a sudden you actually have more capacity to be like, okay, babe, let's talk about this tomorrow, because you're just like, I'm not in a place to fight. And having that spaciousness and having that ability to also meet oneself, because that's important. We're not just running away and tire ourselves out and then turning away. It's actually like coming into a state where we can really meet what is there. And oftentimes there is the grief below the anger. And that is something that we in this society are not taught how to touch. And I think this is a big reason why it can be so easy to resist our body and having a relationship with our actual physical tissues, because it's, there can be that grief, even if we don't recognize it. It is, unconscious or in the subconscious, where it's like we forgot how to tend our vessels this way. We forgot how to nourish ourselves this way. We forgot how to tend our body, and needing to know somebody tell us like what to eat, how to move, what exactly to do. It's like, well, that comes because we inherited patterns of self-neglect. Because when we don't know how to even eat for our body and like nourish our body, or we have to go running off to the doctor anytime something goes a little bit awry, something ain't right.
I love your embodied like wrath around that. Like you're not blaming or pointing. It's just like this embodied wrath of like, why do you think we run to those things? And I'm really glad that you mentioned the starving ourselves, because obviously my podcast photo is from 2019 when I was about to do a bodybuilding competition. So I did 7 bodybuilding shows. I competed from 2017 to 2020 until I got to the point that I had nothing else left in me, like complete soul extraction. So a lot of women that still follow me to this day have been with me on that journey. So I'm really excited to have them on here and to hear you talk about that more, because that's been a huge piece of my journey, is letting go of all the control from like tracking macros to intuitive. Like I've been intuitive eating for like 3 years now, but still to this day, that industry is a huge feeder. It's another profitable thing, but have you had a place in your journey? Was that something in your journey where like you were trying to lose a bunch of weight and track calories
Oh
and
yeah.
stuff? Is that
For most
something?
of my life,
Yeah.
it was very, and it was very much perpetuated in my family. Like my dad he still is like, he would ride his bike forever and then eat like a can of tuna. And we lived in the mountains, and we were always moving. I was riding horses. One summer I was running, I was 15. I would run 6 miles a day. And then I was riding like 5 to 6 horses, and I was trying to eat 1,200 calories. And
Wow.
that thought in my mind about food and like not eating, that was part of the reason that cocaine was such a drug of choice for me, because it would make me not eat. And even, I fluctuated in this journey with body dysmorphia for, as I said, most of my life, and have really come to different terms with it only in the last year. And
Wow.
something that I shared recently, which was removed from Instagram, and this is the only thing out of all of the taboo topics that I talk about, talking about my journey with body dysmorphia and coming to love my belly has brought bans from doing Instagram lives, posts removed, like not even trying to hide that I'm shadow banned. They're just like, people can't see your account right now.
Wow.
And it's very interesting in all of the things that we see online and what you can see on Instagram. Like, this is the thing that they are cracking down on. And I did a whole podcast about the multidimensional abdomen, because so much of my posts and work was taken down around that. And the reason I'm sharing this is because it's evidence to me of this spiritual warfare that wants to keep women fighting to attain this unattainable perfection. And it was something that I saw really clearly last year when I was down at the Arizona-Mexico border, which is the deadliest land border in the world. And we were leaving waters out for the migrants on the migrant trails. And I had a moment during the week of like looking at my belly and feeling like frumpy or something. And I was, at the same time, it was just the veils lifted, and it was like, how much privilege is that to even be able to worry about your shape and your belly? And I could see the like machinery type contraption that is body dysmorphia. And it's like, this is how much energy, time, money, life force are women actually feeding into this, that in a way that has nothing to do with true vitality. Like a 6-pack, unless that is your natural form, which of course a fae body is a body type, there's no physiological benefit to that except for vanity.
Right.
And, of course I am not here to promote one body type as right. And I'm not here to shame anyone, because I know how deep this goes. I had breast implants. I have had breast explants. I had the physique that I had always wanted, and I still hated my body. And, being able to interrupt that and being willing to look at that and being willing to dismantle that from my body was so much around learning about it and learning about the functions of it and how it's all connected, and that there is actually like so much magic going on at any given time. and being able to come into that understanding and acceptance and eventually like true deep love in the power and the wisdom of my body. And it was not something, this is not something that happens overnight. It's really a journey. And when we are inundated with information, influence, ideas of what the ideal body type is supposed to be all the time, it really takes so much power, inner power, to be willing to say, wait, is this actually how I want to spend my life? And that's a personal question. Like maybe this is your lifetime where you are meant to chase that and learn all about that. Maybe that is your soul's mission. Mine is not. It is to dismantle it. And being able to do that in a way that is loving and kind to ourselves and compassionate for ourselves, for like waking up to all of these patterns that we have been taught are just normal. And, I've been in this portal this year and really shedding and coming into a new layer of my work and myself and being more authentic. And it's like that journey of really stepping into that, we do lose connections. We might lose relationships. We might lose, we're going to lose. There's going to be
so
sacrifice.
Important.
And I think this is a reason why there can be so much resistance to true transformation that really lets go of one way of being and steps fully into another, whether that's body dysmorphia or chronic symptoms. And this is a big piece of the journey that I guide women on when they are resolving chronic symptoms, is that identity piece. Because you can be so enmeshed with the identity of being sick and not even realize it. And as you start to let go of those patterns and really own, like, this is possible, that I'm healing, it's these layers that will hold people back. And it's very intentional.
Yeah, I agree. It's so intentional, especially like I said, being so in the health and fitness industry. And I love that you're talking about the body dysmorphia, because I've had to do a lot of deconditioning around women coming to me and wanting to look like me. Right? When I was doing bodybuilding, women would see my workouts and my body and they'd be like, this is why. And I'd have to get on calls with them and because I've always been about inside out. Even when I was like in bodybuilding, that's why it didn't work out for me, because I was just like, no, that's not what I want. But coming from me, I can literally say, like, just because I looked amazing, I wasn't breathing properly, right? Like, I just in the past year been working with my belly to even open up breathing pathways that were literally suppressed because I had to keep my stomach so tight for my lifts and for my shows, and my body had to be this, and I had to twist, and I couldn't even breathe properly. And so I'm so glad you're bringing that up, because, me coming from that experiential perspective, it's like we see the body, but we don't see the internal experience that's happening. We don't see that a lot of these women that are portrayed are having these chronic symptoms like you're talking about. And do you think, like, to kind of go back into that, because like I said, it's become complicated for profit, but it's like, what is it inside of us through your experience with working a woman that it's like we have the chronic symptoms, but we're not actually doing anything to tend to them? It's like they're there, but I've seen you talk about this. So many powerful women even that have like 6-figure businesses, they have chronic symptoms that they're not tending to. And I'm just so curious what you think that is with the fascia and the brain and the psyche, that we're just like, nah, can't right now. Don't have the time.
Yeah, this is a great one. I think a lot of it has to do with self-worth. And, it is so easy to self-worth, and also that deep desire for the magic pill. And the thing is, I work with women across the socioeconomic spectrum. And the thing with the higher end of that is that we have been taught that access to mainstream healthcare is a privilege. and that those magic pills are a privilege, and that you can go do your laser and do this and poke and prod and all of these things, and that's as good as it's going to get. And this is where I see women who are in, executive positions or running companies that are even 7 figures and beyond, suffering in silence with chronic pain or chronic symptoms that they've seen, all of the specialists, the best in the world, blah, 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 but it hasn't moved the needle. They're in really complex, expensive, but they can afford it, symptom management protocols. And that to me is not freedom. That can create the spaciousness to, and this is true with any type of, I think like relief package or something. It's like take the pain away, like a Tylenol or an ibuprofen. I used to take that so I could sleep when I was like very committed to moving away from those type of medicines. I sometimes would take it when I had menstrual pain at night because I was like, I need to sleep. That to me is more important than standing true in my I don't take ibuprofen. As I adjusted my life and my lifestyle and I had the space to move through that pain and feel what I had been suppressing and my ancestor had been suppressing for so long, I created that for myself. But it's important to recognize that sometimes we do need that relief package of some sort so that we have the capacity for the actual deeper healing. Endometriosis surgery is another example. I know some women go through that and that gives them the spaciousness because they're not completely inundated with pain to be able to do the deeper healing work that the endometriosis is actually calling for. But if you're in, chronic pain, I think is the biggest one because it's an immersive trauma. And it has over time, especially when someone goes through ineffective treatments, it is psychologically and emotionally and physically devastating just to be in the chronic pain. So now you have whatever caused the chronic pain in the first place and all of that trauma that builds up over it. And, in a world that sells the female body as something that's going to be painful and that's going to change and go through this menopause and you're going to have hot flashes and, sex life is going to go downhill, all of that stuff, which I think some of this narrative is shifting. There's still such a gap in true freedom in the body. And it's, this is part of the reason that I just continue to speak about it because a lot of people don't know they have options. It's like, oh, I thought this was the only thing I could do. Oh, I've tried everything. And I was like, I guarantee you haven't tried what I do. But that's something that someone has to want and has to feel worthy of and has to actually value. And that's the other thing is that women, I see this all the time, $10,000 on a VIP day for the spa and to feel good in your business, or a mastermind that's going to make you more money, or the breast implants, that they value, and they don't value.
Or the dream man. The dream man, that's a
Exactly.
big one too.
And they don't value the state of organic vitality that is possible. And I'm not here to demonize that. It's not my choice. It is their life path. And I believe that as the collective starts to shift and move away from this, take the magic pill mentality, that it can and will shift. And this is something that is, as I'm speaking to all of it, this is something really important to recognize, that if you feel like you don't have access to these things that are supposed to be healing, like health. If you are in a place where you don't have the resources to invest in a lot of practitioner work or doctors and tests and all of that stuff that you've been told and sold, like this is the answer, it does not mean that you cannot heal. In fact, I have done a lot of my deepest work when I was going through bankruptcy and driving for Lyft. And I was like, the only thing that I'm spending money on is like my rent and my healing. and I'm doing what I can. And this is why my online work is so accessible, because that is actually more deeply healing, to be able to gain all of these tools and learn them and know them and hold them. That is not just healing your body. It is the confidence, the empowerment, what we are passing down to future generations. And it, this is the type of care that every woman could know and could do in 5 minutes a day or less. And if we were passing this on to our daughters, to our sisters, to our mothers, we will put big pharma out of business. Like, straight up. And
Yeah.
all that, that
really.
entity that is big pharma and big medicine doesn't want you to do that. They want to sell you the magic pill. They want to sell you the IVF and the years of treatment, the years of injections, for example, for pelvic care. Of course they don't want something to be cured. I just saw something about cancer, that some guy was jailed for selling or using mushrooms and cannabis to support people curing cancer. And he was arrested. And I'm like, well, yeah, because do you know how profitable this disease is? Like, no one's going to cure that with that, in participation with that system, because it's too much of a moneymaker.
Yeah. And it's so multidimensional. Cancer, I love like going deep into that rabbit hole because man, the multidimensionality, like everything you're speaking to here, the ways that it all festers from the time we come out of the womb, we're literally coming into this collective psyche and the festering of, like you said, the body dysmorphia, the billboards. I was just talking on the previous podcast I just did, like social media is the first place we're being granted death porn. We've been watching movies since we were little of people being blown up, and we were just, oh, entertainment, it's a movie. And now we're seeing real life things happen on social media, but it's not new. It's just our psyches have become so ingrained that, we could go into like the creation of our own reality and how easy it is now with these phones if we're not being intentional to make more money, the profit, and all the things. There was something else you said that I thought about like your cocaine addiction, right? Like we're talking about the body, your work, your cocaine addiction. Obviously that really desensitized you and numbed you to sensation and pleasure and stuff in your body. And I know that's a big thing. My personal journey recently has been really reclamation of my pleasure. So I'm curious for you, how that process was for you, going from I need cocaine to experience this level of ecstasy to, oh, I can do a 5-minute body pelvic massage and experience the same level of ecstasy, if not more profound. That whole process, because I know a lot of women nowadays, caffeine, all the substance abuse, that's all through our desensitization. That word, desensitization of our pleasure.
And, let's just name the Botox and GLP-1 that now you can get in a pill. And, yes.
I didn't know that.
And phentermine was something that I used to go to a clinic in Denver and get. And that's like basically cocaine in a pill that's legal that just makes you like, and these things are not, and I'm naming some of these because no judgment if this is you're participating in them.
Right.
But for me, it was so much of, when I was deep in like an abusive relationship and using a lot of cocaine, and even after that and like healing from that, it kind of went from that numbing and coping into like I'm free and I'm like doing what the fuck I want and yeah, let's go. And as I started to heal and connect to my body, all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, but as time went on, I felt more worthy. I felt more safe. I felt able to connect into my emotions. When my sister died, I barely cried. I was like shoving that shit down as hard as I could, clenching my jaw like I had most of my life. 3 years after that, my dog died suddenly, and I was like screaming and kicking and crying and like able to fully go into that grief. And it wasn't about, you know, when I share this story, it's not about like my sister versus my dog and one of them being more sad. They were both really sad, but it was my ability to access that and be seen and be witnessed in that. And for me, using powdered drugs really fizzled out as the fentanyl kicked up, and I was like, I don't think this is worth dying over. And of course, that was also mixed in with the journey that I was on, investing a lot of time and money into my body, and a lot, of course, is relative to what I had at the time. But it just eventually, it's like the same thing with food and nourishing myself. Eventually, it just didn't feel aligned to do that to myself. Eventually, that feeling of my heart pounding was like not something I wanted to feel. And that in tandem with being able to feel safe, feeling more, and being able to move through emotion and having the physiological capacity to do that. This is the big piece that I know that we miss out on if we are not tending to our tissues, is that big emotions and even processing like the collective energies or spiritual awakenings can feel very, very harsh on the body when your tissues aren't in a condition to be able to hold that and be able to hold you through that.
Yes.
So as your physical vitality and your physiology improves its function, what you're able to feel and what you're able to hold in those feelings expands. And this is where moving away from addiction can be actually sustainable. And those addictions, of course, can be in the range of exercise, social media, caffeine, hard drugs. It's all an addiction. And it can also be medicine, right? There is a difference between using something as medicine and using something as a drug. Food is an example.
Yes.
And being able to look at these patterns and not demonize ourselves and not demonize others, and, you know, just be curious about it. Our body, when we come into her and we tend our tissues, it will happen organically. This is why I don't teach a lot about nutrition and food. It's why I don't have to handhold someone moving through an addiction out of their addiction. It just happens when we tune into our body and we listen and we start to have a relationship with this sacred vessel that was created for our soul to thrive in. And this is where, you know, that simplicity comes in again, because it can be like, that's too simple, right? That won't work. I've tried so many complex things that didn't work. The simplicity, like, that can't work. But the simplicity is what actually creates the space for the body and the nervous system to heal, instead of like, what's she coming at with me next, right? The pill, the injection, the high intensity workout, the whatever is, like, all the things. And I used to do this. I used to go to acupuncture, yoga, massage, all these different protocols. And I was like, if I don't do this, I'm going to have a painful period. If I don't do this, my symptoms will come back. And it was actually COVID that halted all of that and really tuned me into, oh, there's women all over the world who actually don't have access to all the practitioners that I do in Denver, Colorado. And now I'm one of those women because everyone's closed. And that was what sparked my creation of the online body of work. Because, it was like we need to be able to access this no matter where we are in the world, even if there's a global pandemic. And I noticed I was healing more and not having symptoms come back when I was doing less. And when I wasn't getting in the car and sitting in traffic after the appointment, when I wasn't like stressed out about getting to the appointment and parking and then going in, it was like I was able to actually unwind in a deeper way. And this is, again, why I am so passionate about the in-person, or about the at-home work, because doing that even if and when you do have a practitioner that can hold you and that can support you, you're going to be working with a completely different layer of yourself and your body if you are taking accountability and responsibility for your body. It's going to be a much more co-creating experience. And any body worker that is honest is going to say the exact same thing.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, so profound. I love this conversation so much. I'm like, my pineal gland right now is so like, just like, yes, like, it's just so powerful because I'm, like I said, I come from like a journey of the bodybuilding world, of these places where I I genuinely loved working out, but then when I started bodybuilding, it became more about like looking a certain way. I never worked out in the beginning because I wanted to look a certain way. I just thought it was fun. And then it became about my shoulders have to be bigger, my glutes need to be smaller, my legs are too muscular. I had to intentionally lose muscle to fit into my class and all these things. And everything you're speaking to is so big because it's almost like we just have to allow it to be simple. Even if, do you feel like there's a place, it's like, even if there's a part of me that still thinks it needs to be complicated, if I can just allow it to be simple. And I think that's what doing your class that one day did for me was like, because it was humbling because I was that person that was like, well, I've done so much work and all these things and, but I'm just going to do it. And then it was just so simple and amazing to experience my body literally feel safe enough to just rest, to just like go into a rest that it hadn't gone into, especially through my bodybuilding years. And now my workouts are even better. Since I've introduced bodywork, I only go to the gym like at most 3 times a week. And when I go, my workouts are that much better. I feel like I could connect to my glutes more. I feel like I'm like more mobile because like you said, the body just creates the capacity for you. I love the way you said that. It's like, you don't have to do all the extra, you don't have to hold hands because the body is doing it for us. We just have to like listen to her and attune to her. So the work that you do, so obviously you're very multidimensional. Like you bring in the shamanic, the energy. I'm sure you can attest that without actually bringing the body into the picture and having the body work, then we're missing a really, really, really big, important piece if we're really going to see heaven on earth and create heaven on earth. So I would love for you to talk about like I'm like, heaven on earth, I experience it. I experience it. What, through your story, what does your work look like now? And then what kind of spaces have you created to really honor women in this capacity? Because I would love for my listeners to know like how they can dive deeper into your world and just go into your field. Because I just love you. I love that you, like I said, you're very direct, but it's also very deep and profound. And I really respect that and revere that. So
much.
You don't make it more complicated than it needs to be because you're not just trying to profit.
Yeah, it's part of my intention is I talk about this a lot is your freedom even beyond my work and like you should not need me forever. And even clients who I work with for a long time, we take breaks because I'm like, go integrate, go like, because the work actually works. That's the thing is healing is completing and transformation is happening. And it is impossible for it not to through this work. And that's part of the reason I teach anatomy is because you can see what your hands are doing. And it's like, if blood flow is now reaching tissues where it wasn't, if lymph flow is reaching tissues it wasn't, then you are able to access vitality and the light that you are on the multidimensional realm, right? Like these are the places, the freeze patterns, the tense, tight spaces in our fascia, those are the places that implants hook into us. And if you know anything about this or understand, entities and energies and things like that, when something like that clears, if it has been held in our body for a long time, there is going to be a fascial pattern that mirrors it. And so you can clear it and then wait, or you can actually work with that on the multidimensional level, including the physical, because our body is the most spiritual vessel on the planet. We cannot access heaven on
Yes.
earth if we are not in our body fully. And that is why we came, like,
Amen.
we are here on earth to live fully in a body. And it is,
Yes.
the most advanced spiritual teachers that I know. Song of Sophia is the lineage that I have studied in, and it is plant taught primordial womb shamanism that is rooted in the body, physiology, as God's divine design. And honoring the
Yes.
physiology like this, whether or not I've taught so many programs before I was touching the spiritual piece. It was both safe for me and also just not what I was ready to hold people in. And I was like, I'll never teach spirituality. Now I'm like rebirthing into a whole other paradigm that is full on spirituality through the body.
Yes.
And
I feel that.
yeah, it's powerful, and it is, we hear a lot about ascension and this assumption that often comes from religious trauma, that ascension is just like getting out of your body. And that's not actually it. It's actually being in the body as much as possible and cultivating deep roots. Being rooted actually in the earth is essential to that. And that is where, the pelvic work and the downward flow of energy, not just this like up kundalini stuff that is like corrupted, so easily corrupted, is so essential. And this, we've talked about the tightening and the toning and the lifting and like sucking up and in, that disconnects us from the feminine and from the earth. And so a lot of this work is softening down into that so that we're deeply rooted and truly grounded. And then we can grow tall. And so my work, I have right now, my membership is a pathway into my world that I highly recommend for women who are interested in this work. It has my whole body of work, all the recorded programs, audio transmissions that really weave in more of if you have this going on, this is where to look, this is how to support it. These are, some of the spiritual layers of that, everything from things about money and wealth to running up hills to diffuse our anger and, of course, integrating traumas, things like that. And I also do 2 support calls per month in that container. So it's really a holistic space that has a community, for somebody who's really serious about immersive healing. And that is $99 per month. I want to make it accessible so that any woman who is called can step in and receive this and learn this. And really, my guidance is remembrance. And it's the confidence that I have in it and the conviction behind you cannot do this work and not experience life-changing transformation. I want to be really clear, comes from my trust in the body and God's divine design and your connection to that and your resurrection through that process. Of course, you are meant to thrive. And then I am also moving into some practitioner trainings, which I'm very delighted about. There will be more coming in the spring. And let's see, I also do in-person retreats, one-on-one.
Like training other practitioners?
Training other practitioners. Yes. Yes. I have one coming in the spring for that, which will be the foundational practitioner training, and we'll be weaving in plants and plant attunement because that has been such a big part of my journey. So it's really the culmination of body, plants, spirit, and sharing this work on a broader scale with women who are devoted to it.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then I'm doing less and less one-on-one work. It's really, as I look at what I have the capacity to hold, it is more in that holding space in mentorship for practitioners. But from time to time I hold in-person one-on-one retreats, which are really beautiful. And it's taught me, that experience of holding those one-on-one retreats, which are, typically multiple days. We work with the whole body, head to toe, pelvis, vagina, anus, mouth, nose, the whole bit over multiple days. And it's taught me so much about the potential that our body holds for transformation and the way the nervous system, especially the feminine nervous system, responds in a space in the setting that is really in reverence of her, which is such a big differentiator, even from, even like holistic pelvic care or more seeming holistic places that can often still have a lot of roots in a clinical setting. And that doesn't mean that you can't experience healing there. It's just that at a certain point in the journey, there can be a deeper calling from your feminine psyche, soul, spirit, body, and she is not going to respond and open in a space that is built on the systems that have tortured, raped, controlled her for millennia. And so that's where the shift into, a really clear space that is not clinical, that is not rooted in patriarchy, that is not even rooted in this like agenda results, right? It's like, I listen to the body. I don't need your whole life history. I don't need your whole health history. We can start right here, right now with what is present. And
I don't know your panels.
It's not that it's invalid. You can share what's resonant, but so many women get into this just like robot regurgitation of it all because they've done it so many times. And I'm like, it's welcome. Yeah. And I don't need any of it to feel what is happening right now, right here. And let's start there. And that is, really trusting in the body, right? To show us what is present. And I always say that our body will not show us what we are not ready to look at. And we can spend so much time in the big T traumas and like, this is the thing and figuring it out and the story. And the body's like, release, like you've suffered enough. Yeah. You don't need to continue to cycle in that. But when we let our mind lead, that's often where she loops, which can be fun and interesting, but not necessarily provide the transformation that we desire.
It's like you said at the beginning, it's an addiction to feeling bad. It's a weird addiction to like the loops and the cycles. And, we do move in cycles, but we're not meant to repeat cycles. We're meant to attune to the cycles, to the seasons, to the ways that our earth exists. Your work is so profound. It's been such a, it's been so beautiful because like I said, I resonate so deeply with a lot of what you said. There's just something about the body that is like mysterious, but it's also just really clear. And you just know that when you experience it, you won't take anything else as an answer because you just know that the body has the capacity to, God didn't create us to reach outside of us. God literally created our body to heal itself and to regenerate itself. So thank you so much for bringing your story and your shares and your work. And I'm going to link your membership and your podcast. She also has a podcast. I don't know if you want to mention it
but it's there.
She just started her podcast. So I'll link that below too. And then I've been asking, so I have a question. I've been asking the couple guests that have been coming on for you to put into your own words what a resurrected revelation is. How would Caytlyn say this is a resurrected revelation?
Well, feeling fully safe and connected in our body and to the divine design that she is, and everything that we could possibly need for that process and to live in our full design and potential will come as we remember that, because it is direct connection to the divine.
Boom, resurrected revelation. Yay! So thank you guys so much for tuning into another episode. And I'm really looking forward to seeing who ventures into your world and what they receive from you, because I know that, I love it so much. So go ahead and stay on. I'm going to stop the recording and then we can say like our goodbyes and stuff. But thank you so much. And see you guys next time. Okay.